All right, welcome to the inaugural episode of Marxisms. Marxisms is my video channel, and it's called Marxisms because my name is Mark, not because I'm a communist. I do not espouse Marxism, and I do not espouse communism. I do think that certain aspects of socialism are fine. I believe in market economy. I believe that the United States, with its great wealth and power, um, certainly has the ability to take care of its people. And we've always had certain amounts of socialism from the beginning. The government has always been there to fund businesses that were doing public works projects, bail out banks, provide police and fire and education, which is something our founders wanted, was compulsory education, things like that. Those are all very socialist things. It's just socialism as a terminology did not exist yet. But socialism is actually fine to a degree, and I'm not advocating against it, and I'm not advocating for it. I'm advocating for common sense, of course, because we should take care of people that need to be taken care of. And I'm not talking about people that are bilking the system, so that they can not work and things like that. We don't want that. I want to see everybody educated. I think that's one aspect of socialism I think we should have in this country. If we educated all of our people, we would have a very successful society. We already do, but it's also really top heavy. And when banks screw up, they're too big to fail, and we bail them out. That's socialism. They get all kinds of subsidies and stuff like that, which are tax breaks, which is socialism, and it's socialism for the wealthy. We've always had socialism. It's always been primarily for the wealthy in this country. We do have some programs for people like Social Security that we pay into. So, in a way, it's not really socialism. It's a little bit, but, because the government uh, controls it not very well, but they do. And so, therefore, we call that socialism and entitlements, whatever. But yeah. But, anyways, it's called Marxism because a friend of mine back in when I was working still, I'm retired now. I used to talk a lot of politics. In fact, I was a Republican committee member in Sonoma County, California, and I was a state delegate for 6 years as well in the California Republican Party. And I used to talk politics a lot, obviously, and pass out, whenever there was an initiative or something like that. I always had copies of it, something that we wanted. And so one day somebody said something to a buddy of mine, and he was, kind of a funny guy. And he goes, "Oh, that sounds like a Marxism." And I'm like, "Oh, I like that. I should use that." I liked the dichotomy between, Marx being a communist and me not being a communist, me being a conservative Republican and all that stuff. So I ended up buying the domain name and naming my webpage that. And anyway, so that's where Marxism comes from. It has nothing to do with Marxism. Anyway, so I mean, I have read the Communist Manifesto, of course, because I am a political scientist. I'm also a historian. I've read lots of history, and I've read lots of different political viewpoints, and you know, Mein Kampf, and the important ones that we all should know. Um, Now, let's talk about Mein Kampf a little bit. Maybe that's what we're kind of seeing right now is that kind of authoritarian uh, dictatorship in the process with Donald J. Trump, who is um, today, this very day, breaking the Constitution once again. So it's a hell of a day for a introductory video because there's a lot going on, and I'm not real happy about it. I am for the Constitution. I am for freedom, and what this dictator in the process is doing is he's creating crises, and so that he can put his military in the streets. He's talking about that right now. He was talking about a couple days ago that there's going to be, because of these ICE raids, these ICE protests, is going to be military in the streets of all around the country, and that's what he wants. Of course, this is the plan. Anybody that's read Project 2025 knows exactly what they have planned. They want to create a Christian nationalist dictator shithole of America, and there's plenty of people around the country who like that idea because they claim to be Christian even though they're not. Like Marjorie Trailer Trash Green, and some of these other people, they claim to be Christians, but they're probably the least Christian of most of the people on the planet. I know people that are good Christians, and I salute them for their empathy and the things that they do and everything else. But these phony Christians, like most of the Republican Party, um, yeah, you're not Christians. I've read the Bible many times over. I've studied Christianity, and now you are not Christians. You do not follow Jesus. Was an amazing teacher, and he would be woke. If Jesus was alive today, he would be what would be considered woke. And I know you don't like to hear that, but too fucking bad. Anyway, so today, 700 Marines have been deployed to California to um, be in place until the National Guard come online. Two things that are really against the Constitution and posse comitatus. The Title 10 of the uh, federal code gives him the ability to do that under emergency circumstances, but this is an emergency he's creating. It's not really an emergency. These were isolated protests, and that doesn't warrant even the National Guard. The police can handle it, and they can handle it in their own way. The LAPD have been doing this for a long time, and in fact, this is the reason why he chose LA to do this, was because he knew the history of LA and the LAPD being very racist and heavy-handed and very unconstitutional in their actions, violating civil rights. They've been doing it for many years. He knew it would be the perfect proving ground for him, because he knew people would stand up and protest, which is what they did. They stood up and protested, and you're just saying, "Oh, they're violent riots," and it's an insurrection. Mm, January 6th was a violent riot and insurrection, which was perpetrated by Donald J. Trump, and was carried out by the racist um, white supremacist groups like Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and these other groups that claim to be for the Constitution but clearly are not. They rioted. They tried to overthrow the government. They tried to overthrow the election, which was not stolen in any way. I followed it. I crunched numbers that night, and I went to work the next day, and I said, those certain states, I was telling my coworkers who were mostly Republicans, I was telling them, look, I said, these states right here are going to end up in Biden's hands. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I said, because the numbers don't add up. I mean, because something we all know is that, or anybody that does politics knows that Democrats vote by mail, Republicans vote in person on election day. And most states count the day votes first, the votes that were done that day, they count those first. And then afterwards, they count the mail-in votes. We've known that in the Republican Party. We used to talk about that all the time. And we used to, have these parties on election night, and we would tell people, okay, just stay calm, don't get euphoric. Bush is winning right now, but that's going to change. It's going to be a lot closer towards the end of the night because of these votes. And see, Donald Trump knows that. All the Republicans know that. Fox News knew that. We know Fox News knew it because we've read their emails. They knew that the election wasn't faked. It was, they know it. They just lied to everybody. Their emails tell a totally different story than what they were saying on the air, which is disgusting, which is why they lost an almost $1 billion lawsuit. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. These were not riots and insurrections. What these are people standing up for their rights and for the rights of other people. Uh, Republicans have been having illegals mowing their lawns and being nannies for their kids and babysitting and doing and working in their businesses that they pick them up on um, at Home Depots and whatnot and workstation. They've been doing this for years, and they've been making a ton of money. Um, the big lie is that, oh, they're getting all these benefits. They're not. Illegal aliens do not get benefits. What they do is pay taxes, though. They are paying into Social Security, but not collecting it. They're paying into unemployment and not collecting it. They're paying taxes and not really getting too much in the way of services unless the particular community they live in are decent Christian like people, like the liberals in California. You want to talk about the homeless problems that California has? Well, it's because the Christian red states ship off all their homeless people to places like California. And guess what? Californians do the Christian thing and take care of them. Um, you so-called red states that are full of Christians, you should be ashamed of yourself because you are not Christians. You are not following Jesus. The Marjorie Trailer Trash Greens of the world are not Christians. She is a horrible, angry, hateful person, is what she is. And Jesus would not like her. Jesus was woke, and if he was alive today, he would be considered woke. But you don't like to hear that, but it's the facts. He would probably be a socialist, and Christianity is kind of should be a little socialist anyway, because what's it about? Charity, taking care of the poor, loving each other, things like that. And you're doing your own God a disservice by acting the way you do, frankly. So anyway, um, as we know, anyone who is honest with themselves knows that Donald Trump has a long history of breaking the law. He bankrupted his father's building construction business and all the money he inherited. And it is widely whispered that he made his money back by laundering money for the Russian mafia, which is probably why he capitulates to Trump or to Putin, because well, Putin knows all this. He's got all the skinny on him. Not to mention the hookers and the whole fetish of being peed on and shit like that. Whether those are true or not, I don't know. But it's pretty clear that they got something on him. It's just unbelievable that we would be going against one of our allies who is fighting for their own freedom and siding with a dictator. Um, but the only kind of person that would do that is somebody that's A, wants to be a dictator. Okay, well, we know that that's true. B, they have something on them. That's probably true too. Um, Trump is a convicted felon, 37 times over. He is known by the um, civil courts to have sexually assaulted a woman. It is found that he sexually assaulted somebody in civil court and had to pay money for defaming her. So this is not a great guy. And then what's he do? He incites an insurrection and riot on 2020 in over the election that he lost, and then claims that, oh, they're just patriots, it was tourism, and he got his sycophants at Fox News and AON and Newsmax to share the edited clips of the moments where they were walking peacefully through the Capitol, and then ignoring the riots and assaulting police officers outside and on the way in. They tried to claim that they were, well, we have it's facial recognition stuff. They tried to claim early on that it was Antifa and BLM and all that. All turned out to be bullshit. It wasn't Antifa. They were all MAGA. They were all Proud Boys. They were all uh, um, whatchamacallits, oath keepers and just regular scumbags like that crazy chick that got shot. What the hell was her name? I forget. But I watched a video of her. It was that they posted later. I watched it after the fact, but took place the day before of her just ranting like a lunatic, and she was known to be a lunatic. They make her out to be a hero, and that she was murdered and everything. She was a nut job. But anyway, so since Trump's been in office, he's had all his sycophants just lying for him. He made billions of dollars in his first term from Saudi Arabia and places like that. That golf tournament that he got and all this stuff. His family's just getting absolutely wealthy off the presidency, and they're making billions this time around. And then his spokesperson gets up there, and I don't know how she can keep a straight face, if she's just a complete idiot or if she's just a really adept liar, but how she could get up there with a straight face and say, oh, he's not making money off the presidency. Oh, no. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, if you believe that, I mean, I'd like to sell you a bridge. I mean, which coast do you want? You want the Brooklyn Bridge? I can sell you that, or I can sell you the Golden Gate Bridge if you want a smaller one. I mean, maybe the one in St. Louis that crosses the Mississippi. I don't know, but I want to talk to you if you believe that shit, because you're a fucking moron. But anyway, neither here nor there. Oh, it's here nor there. So anyway, we have a situation now where we have a guy that's creating Donald J. Trump. He's creating a situation where he's creating crises, and so that he can get troops in the streets. He's already said that he's going to have troops in the streets. He's having a military parade this weekend for his birthday. But they're saying it's for our Army's birthday, but we know. He loves he said that in his first term. It's like, how come we don't have military parades like other great nations like Nazi Germany and and Soviet Union and his heroes, basically authoritarians. He studied Hitler and the authoritarians, and he's not doing stuff that's really Republican. I mean, he's he's very socialist. He's using the government to do things. That's not freedom. That's not republicanism. It's not democracy or democratic republican. I know we have a republic. I know, but those terms are really, it's the same thing. I mean, we know that a pure democracy can't exist in the United States because every person would have to participate, and we know that's not possible. There's too many people. So we democratically elect our representative, and today our senator. We didn't used to. It was done by the state's legislatures originally, and that was changed by the 17th Amendment. But whether you like that or not, I know a lot of people don't like that, but there's good reason why we changed it. Things are different today than they were on our founding. We also, came up with the electoral college, which wasn't originally what we had. We didn't have the same system we have today. It's a little bit different. And at the time, it actually made sense because we had big states, little states, and people considered themselves, their states a country. We were the United States, state being a country. A state was a country. So Virginia was a country, and Massachusetts was a country who put their hats in the ring together so we could fight Britain. And we became the United States, the United Countries of America. And then eventually we decided to throw off the Articles of Confederation and become a country, and that's when we had the Constitution, and that's what it did. It codified national law and created a central government. And so we became one nation, and then we still allowed our states to work autonomously, the states' rights issue and everything else. Um, and and the reason we had the electoral college was because we had big states that had a lot of population, and we had smaller states that didn't, and so it was kind of unbalanced, and you would have a bigger states dictating what goes on, and so they decided that they would create the Senate would have, everyone would have two senators, and then you would elect the representative by popular vote, and so that's why we do it that way. But in today's world, we're one country, and that really shouldn't be a thing anymore. I know you guys will say, "Oh, we don't want California voting for us." Well, I mean, if you look at the country, the majority of the people are on the East Coast and the West Coast. So if the majority of people vote for somebody, they should kind of have the say in who gets elected. Now, see how that's worked well. Donald Trump actually got a majority vote. So it wasn't by the huge margin that he says it was. It was by the lowest margin since World War II. But it works because people, they wanted Donald Trump and they stupidly voted for him. I think a lot of them are not happy about that now. The heavies, the racists, the people who, uh, the ignorant, the people who, hate Mexicans and hate black people, they're still supporting him. But I think, old school Republicans like myself and, Liz Cheney and whatnot are kind of going, yeah, this is some of the smarter people, Michael Steele, they're going, well, no, this is not republicanism, because republicanism is the rule of law. And this is not the rule of law. He's done away with the separation of powers. He ignores the courts. He has ignored Congress. It's Congress who's made all these departments. That's their job to do, and it's not his job to. It's the legislature's job to create the departments, and it's the executive branch, which is the president and his cabinet, to run them, but not to fire them. The heads of those departments serve at his discretion, yes, and could be hired and fired. But the rank and file, they're there for a reason. If you start an EPA, which was started by Congress, it was actually Nixon during the Nixon administration that he helped create it, actually. But he had to have Congress vote for it. And what actually happened was that what happens is that you don't you don't have Congress, stepping in and regulating every little aspect of the Department of Education or the EPA, because they're not experts in those things. They're mostly lawyers. So what they do is you hire people who have expertise in these departments, and then they run the department, and then you oversee the department as Congress, and vote to decide how these things actually function, and then they're run by the executive branch, and but not to be able to fire. It's they work hand in hand. The executive branch and the legislative branch, they work hand in hand on these things, and then when they don't agree on stuff, then it goes to the courts. So then the courts have their say in that too. That's called separation of powers. Everybody has a role to play, and that keeps you from having authoritarianism. But when Congress are a bunch of spineless sycophants like the Republicans are, you don't have that, because there's no oversight now, because they're doing it because they're scared. They're scared of Trump. They're scared of his voters. They're scared of MAGA, because their MAGA are just pieces of shit who hate people, who are a bunch of racists and stuff like that. Um, you talk to anybody that's MAGA, and they'll tell you everybody they fucking hate, because they're pieces of shit. They're the racists that came out of the woodwork when it became popular again to be a racist piece of shit, like Donald Trump, their leader. He made being a racist douchebag mainstream again. So that's why they are. It's just simple, but that's not how it should be. We should still have our separation of powers. As for these illegals who have been mowing your lawns for the last how many fucking decades, they need due process as well, because the Constitution just doesn't say due process for Americans; it says due process, period. So that means, and the Constitution does. Um, um, it's for everybody that's in this country. So you have the ability to uh, have your say in court. So if you're going to be deported, you should go to an immigration court. If they're arrested, they go to an immigration court and they decide whether, okay, what are we going to do? Where are we going to deport you? And you don't deport them all to a prison in some other country. If you do deport them, you deport them back to their own country and let that country decide how it all, plays out. What he's doing is just completely illegal. They're not having due process. So these people are getting sent to prisons. Um, and we don't know that they're guilty or not. They might be, but they might not be. How would we know? They haven't investigated that. And they're saying, oh, but the authorities, ICE and the police, they already decided that they were. It's like, really? How many times have you been cited, pulled over, or stopped by the police and they were completely fucking wrong? I mean, watch some First Amendment auditor videos. They're not authorities on the law. They really aren't. And they're actually allowed to lie for a living. They're allowed to lie to you, and they do it all the time. You know, um, tell you that, oh, well, they could. Yeah, it's already been ruled in the Supreme Court that they can lie. So they're not the authority. That's why we have courts. We have courts so that we can have juries and of the peers and have regular people that aren't involved in law enforcement making these decisions and the judges ruling over those. It's a really good but not perfect system. And we're not using it now because Trump is ignoring courts. He is violating the Constitution. He's violating the rule of law. He's violating the separation of powers. He's deciding what amendments mean. The 14th Amendment, it was determined that it meant if you were born on American soil that you were an American. And now he's saying, no, I've determined that it's not. Well, he does not get to have that say. Who would have that say? An authoritarian dictator. And by giving him the ability to do that is what you're doing. Congress, the Supreme Court, even the media, you are capitulating. What you're doing is you're creating an authoritarian dictator. He can't have that power if you don't give it to him. And the only people left are the people of the United States of America, the people of Los Angeles, who are now standing up for their rights and the rights of their fellow citizens, or just regular people who happen to be in this country who've been mowing their lawn for 40 years or whatever, who we've been. And okay, and everybody's like, well, we can't be giving them benefits. They don't get benefits and they don't vote. It's like you guys talk about voter ID and that we need to have voter ID. We do not need to have voter ID because the registrar of voters, they check those votes. That is their job. That's what they do. When I moved from California to another state and re-registered, California sent me a letter and said, it looks like you're registered somewhere else, so we're going to pull you from the voter rolls. If there's something wrong with this, contact us. I didn't, of course, because they were right. I did. I was registered to vote in another state now. And that's what they do. That's their job. I mean, I was involved in politics. I know how the registrar works. I actually dated somebody who worked at the registrar at one point, but I know how it fucking works. And it doesn't work that they just fucking register anybody they want and don't check on them. They fucking check every person who is on that registers to vote. You don't. When you go register to vote, you could register online. Well, do you think they just fucking kick it right back to you online? No, they take that and they fucking vet it. They check to see, okay, this guy does live here. Is he getting bills there? They check all that shit. Are you that naive? They're not getting benefits. In fact, illegals, when they work here, They pay into Social Security. They pay into unemployment. They pay taxes. They do not get unemployment insurance. They do not get Social Security. They do not get Medicare. Some jurisdictions, some states decide that they give them something um, for working there. It doesn't come from the federal government. So if a state decides they want to do that, it's none of your fucking business. If you live in, say, Wyoming and California's doing it, it's none of your fucking business. It's not coming out of your pocket. They're not getting fucking benefits. That is the biggest farce on the fucking planet, next to the fucking election bullshit from 2020. um, so basically, what's going on is Trump is creating crises so that he can deploy troops into the streets. He wants to do this in every state, in every city, because that's what fucking dictators do. There is not a crisis. Um, there were peaceful protests. A couple days ago in LA, the police came out and said, "We'd like to thank the protesters for keeping the protest peaceful." Well, guess what? They were peaceful right up until the violence started. You know who started the violence? The people that always start the violence, the fucking police. Yes, that's who starts the violence every time. What do the police do? What is their job? What has always been their job? Where did they start out? You want to say, oh, they were the Boston Constable. No, they weren't. There was that. But what they're modeled after is the guys that went after escaped slaves, and then they're military now. They're militarized. We have a militarized police force, which we shouldn't. We shouldn't have militarized police forces that run around violating everybody's rights, and they do constantly. Go watch some First Amendment auditor videos. They do it constantly, violate people's rights because they think because they know that you're too scared and stupid to stand up to them. If they walk up and say, "I want your ID," you fucking give it to them because you're a bootlicking idiot. What you have to do is say, "What's your probable cause? Do you have a reason to ask for my ID?" Because they can't just ask. They have to have a reason to do things. And the more people just capitulate, the more of a police state you create. And this is what Congress and the Supreme Court and now the news media, they're capitulating because they're afraid of this guy, or they agree with his thug ass authoritarian agenda. And so they just go along with him. You're capitulating. You're making him a dictator. Hitler, if he didn't have um, a country of Jew hating people, he would have never gotten anywhere. He told them things that they wanted to hear. He told them that, yeah, we hate the Jews. They're a bunch of rats, and everybody was like, yeah, that's because that's the way they believed. So they followed him. They made him what he is. He didn't just become that. Same with this motherfucker. He wants to be a dictator. He's an authoritarian, and members of Congress are either scared of not getting elected because of all the really ignorant people that vote for him. Same with the news media. They're afraid they're going to get sued. They're afraid that he's going to use his powers as a dictator to go after them and sue them and this and thing and that thing. But you can't do that. That's how you create an authoritarian. You are making it happen. Now, there is going to be more protests across this country, and there should be. Um, I do not want to see them become violent. Go out there and protest. You do not need to be violent because I guarantee you they will bring the violence. The police will bring the violence and make them violent, and then they will blame you. It's what's going to happen. But you know what? It's going to happen because we do need to get out there in the streets and stand up to these motherfuckers because they're taking our country over and they're turning it into a dictatorship. And if you think I'm wrong, well, sit back and do nothing because that's what's going to happen. He's making crises and he wants troops in every state, in every big city, and so that he can control everything. And you're going to let him do that, or you're not. Congress is, the news media is, the Supreme Court is. There's only one group of people left, and that's the American people. We need to get out there and protest, keep it nonviolent. And I know they don't keep it nonviolent when they protest. No, we saw what happened at the Capitol. They sat there and they talked about Portland and they said, "Oh, burn Portland to the ground." Well, I've been to Portland since then, and trust me, they either rebuilt it really quick and made it look old, or it didn't burn to the ground. It was a couple of blocks. I know people that were there. It was a couple of blocks. I know people that were in Chicago, and I also know there was the police that started the violence, not the protesters. Um, there was a couple of blocks involved in Portland, and the difference between Portland and the insurrection, the one that took place on January 6th, 2020, was that the people in Portland were protesting 400 years of racism, inequality, inhumanity, redlining, and all the crap that the racists in this country, and there's been a lot of them, have done. Every state, every city in this country had redlining up until the 1960s, until they changed the law. So don't tell me it was just the South or just whatever. It was everywhere in the United States. And they have every right to stand up against that kind of bullshit. What happened on January 6th was a bunch of sore losers who were over there defending and trying to overthrow the government because some egotistical baby who wants to be a dictator lost an election. And he did lose that election. Everybody, indivisible.org is having rallies all over the country. They're peaceful protests. We are going out there to peacefully protest the Trump administration and their immigration policies and their thuggery. Do not be violent. We do not need to be violent. They will bring the violence. Trust me, they will make it violence. Not in every city, but in a lot of them, they will bring the violence. What we need to do is get out there every week and protest. We need to stand up against this thug and get him out of office. Donald J. Trump needs to be taken out of office. And I don't mean violently. I mean, he needs to be impeached and imprisoned for his crimes against the Constitution and his other crimes, and at least be impeached. I mean, look at the money this guy is making off the presidency. And look what he's doing to this country. He's destroying it. He's just already destroyed the economy. And he's going to destroy all our lives and take all of our freedom unless we, the people, get out there and do something. So get out there and protest. And actually, one more thing I want to say before I go. Everybody talks about American greatness, America first, and how Yankee ingenuity, we're the greatest country on earth because the American people are this and that. We're not better than anybody else on the planet. There are some very good reasons why we became the most prosperous country in the world. And it has, yeah, people worked hard, sure. And we had a decent system, but there's one thing, it's geography and a little geology too, but geography has made it possible for this nation to prosper like no other nation on earth. And that's going to be the subject of my second video. And I'll give you a hint, the Mississippi River. That's not the only thing, but that's the biggest thing. Anyway, so get out there and protest. Let's not capitulate. We need to stop this. We need to stop the authoritarian. We need to stop the lawlessness in this country. And I don't mean the protests. I mean the lawlessness that is Donald J. Trump.